Hey guys, welcome to another video. Today I want to talk all about procrastination and why I procrastinated in particular. If this sounds like you, welcome to the club. You're my person, you get me. And if this does sound like you, I really recommend getting on a call with me. I promise I'm so nice and I'm so friendly, and all I really want to do is help because I really get it. I really understand how frustrating it is when I kept disappointing myself and I had no idea why I was procrastinating on something that I also considered my passion, right? And so I'm going to share these 5 top reasons that I procrastinate because this was a lot of my work in the beginning as I got into this personal development journey, was trying to understand why first, because before we can understand, or before we can change, we have to understand first. Okay, so the number one reason that I procrastinated was because I was terrified of failure. So I really just thought that I saw other things as more interesting, or I thought I was not committed, or I thought that I didn't love art. I was thinking it was all these other things when, as I really looked back and I really started to do mind work, it was very clear that what it was is that I was terrified of failure. I would really pressure myself that the next painting or the next drawing I did had to be perfect. Like it had to be as good as the last one, at least in my eyes. So like when I got, in front of a blank canvas, the initial thought is like, what if this is a waste of time, really, right? Like what if I fail and then this becomes a total waste of time? And it's not perfect. If it's not perfect, then it's a total waste of time. So I totally had perfectionism going on in there. And, perfectionism, a lot of people think that perfectionism is like people who care about being tidy or care about high quality work. That's actually not true. Perfectionism is actually people, including me, who just are so intolerant of like negative feedback, right? So we want to make sure it's perfect. There's no room at all for failure. And then that way, if it's perfect and no one can say something bad about it, and in turn I don't say anything bad about it, then I can feel good all the time. So yeah, for me, it was like whatever painting was in front of me, it had to be better in my eyes and it had to get more likes. I started to get really like bogged down with the likes and the comments, and if it didn't get as much likes, it was like really, it just felt like a waste of time. Like I didn't proceed, I didn't move forward. I guess I was like so unaccepting of where I was in my journey, right, in my process of art, that it had to be a step forward. It can't be this like back and forth, experimentation and figuring out. It had to be this linear, linear trajectory, which, in almost, there's almost no journey like that, right? Like most things, it's like you take 10 steps forward, then you take 2 steps back, then you take 6 steps forward. But for me, it was like, it had to be linear. And yeah, and if it wasn't, then it was a total waste of time. And I would feel totally anxious because I wanted to be successful immediately, right? Like I had to do this right now. And so I was not accepting where I was, and I was considering myself a failure pretty much, and that I was going to be successful later. And right now, I was a failure. So I was really desperate, right, to try and get to that successful place. And so, yeah, I was terrified of wasting time. And funnily enough, in the end, I ended up wasting more time, right? And then also, like, if a painting did go well, oh my God, that was actually sometimes worse because the pressure that I would put on myself was so insane that essentially I would self-sabotage like crazy and like stop painting and all that kind of stuff if a painting went well. I just couldn't believe that like I could do well. It was, I just always was looking for a failure. So interestingly, I failed ahead of time, even though I was terrified of failing. Okay, the second thing the second reason why I procrastinate is because I didn't believe I had an artistic voice or anything unique to say. I pretty much judged every single thing I created. It was either too close to a hero, it was either too boring, or it was either too like generic, or I just like found all sorts of reasons like, oh, you're drawing another girl, then you're a bad artist. Oh, you're drawing like something you love, you're a bad artist. Essentially anything that you're using like really fun, crazy colors. Well, that's not realistic. Like real artists do realistic stuff. So I just kept really believing that I didn't know who I was. So anything that I was doing as like experimentation or just like studying from artists or just going for the things that I really liked. Like I remember I was really judging just the way I drew ears. Like, isn't that like so crazy? I was judging so hard the way I was drawing ears because I really loved the way another artist drew ears. And instead of seeing that as like me being a young artist, learning to find her voice, I was seeing myself as just like a cheap copy. So if everything I made was a cheap copy, no wonder that was the last thing I wanted to do, right? Like it was the last thing I ever wanted to do was to create art. And so I remember like just wishing so badly with every like being how much I wished I had another artist's style, quote unquote. And it was just so unproductive, so unnecessary. And I could have really just cut myself some slack that I was just like experimenting, right? Like I wasn't making money from it. I wasn't selling that stuff. Like even if something looked similar, I wasn't going to profit off of it. It was just part of the experimentation phase. Okay, number 3 thing that I did in order as a reason to procrastinate was that I totally compared my work to other artists all the time. So this is similar into the second reason, but the difference here really is more about like skill. I really thought that like, and style as well, but skill, like I was looking at people who are veterans and thinking that I should be at that stage. I kept thinking I should be farther along. And a lot of people who have been on client calls with me talk about their like insecurities about their age, like, you know, oh, they're this age and then they believe that they should be way further ahead. But I promise you, your age is not the problem, right? It's our thoughts. If we have this thought, like there are 16-year-olds who believe that they should be farther ahead, right? Like it really doesn't matter our age. Our age is neutral. It's just a fact. And all these thoughts about like we should be farther along really just didn't help me anyway. And so that comparison really like kept me stuck for a while. And then also I would compare like mediums and, you know, I would be unhappy with my work and then I would see a beautiful watercolor painting or something and think, okay, yeah, that's it. I got to get into watercolors. That's going to solve all of my problems. That is why I'm not getting the likes I want. That's why, you know, like my work is not where it should be. What I need to do is drop digital art and go to watercolors, even though I've never touched it in my life. I was like, the medium is the answer. So then I would go buy a bunch of expensive watercolors and man, did it feel really productive at the time. But obviously, like I did 1 or 2 paintings and I was like, wow, I suck at this. And then think, oh, okay. So it turns out you actually have to practice, right? You have to actually get good at watercolors if you want to make a beautiful painting. Watercolors in itself don't make beautiful paintings. Okay, number 4 reason is when I didn't know what to do or draw, and that was one of my reasons for procrastinating. So a lot of us do this, right? It's either writer's block, art block, or you know, some kind of creative block, which truly I realize is really just an excuse not to take action, right? Like and I totally could have asked myself during those times, like, if I did know what to draw, what would I? And I have been doing that lately. Like, okay, if I did know what to draw, and I usually would fall into something that I love drawing, then what would I draw? Then I would draw something I love, right? And if, let's say, you've drawn that painting so many times, or if you've done the same, like, pose, or if you've done the same hands or facial expression, it doesn't matter, right? Like, the difference really is that you make a painting or you don't. So even if you make another painting that looks really similar as one you've already done, well, you got even better at doing that kind of painting, right? And you got even more practice painting in general. So I used to just put so much pressure on myself that I couldn't draw similar things, that I couldn't, that I had to have a wide variety. I had to look like an artist that was like so multi-versed and like so original all the time. Like it's all coming from this place of like, I want other people to think of me this way instead of focusing on the fun and instead of focusing on the love. And so before I started to focus more on the love, right? Like I would just judge my tastes. I would just be like, oh, you want to draw this? Well, it's been done before, or it's really similar to another artist, or you won't be able to do it as well as somebody else. So what's the point? And then in the end, I just don't draw. So like anything I would want to paint, I just kept telling myself that it's not worth it, I guess, like that it was just not real art. Okay, the last reason, number 5 reason why I procrastinated was not having a plan or a clear goal. So I was, there was a phase in my life where I was looking for jobs, right? And I was so desperate to find a job that I really just tried to be everything all at once. I just wanted to be accepted in a company so that I could call myself a hired artist, like an employed artist, that I wasn't a quote unquote failure. So I tried to do every single thing at once. And so I thought I needed to be amazing at creatures, at figures, at environments, at vehicles, at sci-fi, like literally everything but the things I really loved. Because again, I thought what I loved was not real art. And then the biggest mistake though, when we do start to do planning, is that we completely overload our schedules. We're like I don't know why a lot of us do this. Actually, I do. It's because we believe in this ideal self that doesn't ever get tired. But like what my problem is that I never planned any free time. So that was my biggest thing. So those are the 5 reasons for me. I was terrified of failure. 2 was I didn't believe I have an artistic voice. 3 was comparing my work to others. 4 is when I used art block as an excuse. And then 5 is not having a plan or a clear goal. So once again, if this sounds anything like you, like you're totally not alone, I've been here. I get it. I really get it. And I feel like I've made some really, really big strides in the past. Like week or month even, where I really feel like I got a handle on my procrastination. If something's on my calendar, I get it done. Like there's no more any like negotiations or chatter in my mind. It's just like if it's on the calendar, I'm doing it. And which is really mind-blowing to me because I used to procrastinate like crazy. So like I said, if this sounds like you, you're not alone, and I would love, love, love to chat with you and get in a coaching call with me. It's all in the description. I have a calendar link in the description. And again, I'm super friendly. I'm super nice. All I want to do is connect and help. So thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll talk to you in the next video. Okay, bye.